there, I'm Lindsay, and today One Cancer Place introduces you to a poignant story of a person, one of a series of personal stories that provides a peek into the authentic life of a cancer patient. We hope that you find the magic in these unique stories because each of these lives is lived to the hilt in service for others and in deep gratitude for survival. One Cancer Place, the newest patient-led community, leads the way in delivering the revolution in cancer care to its growing membership of cancer stakeholders and patients. Find and connect with us online at www.onecancerplace.org.
My name is Nicole, and I was diagnosed with stage 1 invasive ductal carcinoma, or also known as breast cancer.
Now, Nicole, you have a unique experience in that finding out about your cancer wasn't your first introduction to what it's like to be a cancer patient. Can you tell me about your job and what it is that you normally do?
Yes. So I work at a biotech company that makes oncology therapies or cancer drugs. And I work in patient advocacy department. And so my job is to understand the patient experience. And so really what that means is better understanding, what it's like to be diagnosed with cancer, what it's like to be on treatments, and bring back those insights and share them with the organization so that everything we are doing from development to commercialization, we are being mindful of the unmet needs of the patient and the patient experience and integrating that into everything that we do.
Yeah. Well, I imagine that even through all of your work experience, that finding out a diagnosis like that from your own experience is still challenging. Can you tell me about what your experience was in talking with cancer patients and then what your experience has been as someone who found out that they are indeed living with cancer?
Yeah. So it's very interesting, and it's been a very eye-opening experience for me. I have the pleasure of speaking with patients and patient advocates who share their stories with us, so that we can, better improve our therapies. And I think what I thought I knew about a cancer diagnosis was completely turned right upside its head when I personally heard the words myself that I had cancer, and that unique experience. I've heard so many other people tell me about that, and you truly can't understand the magnitude and gravity of those words unless you've heard them for yourself or for somebody that you love. It's very hard and difficult, and something that I would not wish upon anyone.
What are some of the things that go through your mind when you hear something like that?
Well, I think initially you hear the words that you have cancer, but there's very limited information that's sort of shared with you in that initial conversation with your doctor. So, it's of course, I think your mind goes immediately to, well, so what does this mean? Am I dying? And so it's just all those scared thoughts come rushing through your mind, I think.
Yeah. Tell me how you found One Cancer Place.
Well, so I think that's the unique opportunity that I have, with sort of my career now intersecting with my personal life. I had met Erica, the founder of One Cancer Place, through my work and a meeting with her to better learn about the needs of colorectal cancer patients. And so I was connected to Erica at a medical conference, ASCO GI, back in 2020, right before the pandemic. Her and I sat down and had coffee, and she sort of shared with me about the work that she had been doing and the needs of the community. And so we've kept in touch, and when I was diagnosed, I had been participating on a think tank with another patient group, and Erica joined the call, and she had heard me share that I was diagnosed with cancer, and she just kind of flew in and, was messaging me on the side, asking me how I was doing, reaching out, and sort of introduced me to her new endeavor with One Cancer Place and what she was trying to do, and be a broader to the broader patient cancer experience. Asked me if I would be interested in learning more, and of course, she sort of took me under her wing and told me everything was going to be okay. And so I'm really grateful for her and all that she's doing to support the cancer community.
Having had the benefit of being familiar with this world and being a patient advocate, how has that background influenced how you interact with One Cancer Place and what One Cancer Place has been supportive for you doing in your own journey through living with cancer?
I think, the intersection of my career and my personal life and this cancer diagnosis, I think me, myself, being aware of great organizations like One Cancer Place and like Erica, that in and of itself, I think is a sort of a luxury that I had, because I know many people who have a cancer diagnosis might not work in the oncology space. They might not work in healthcare. They might have little to no experience with cancer or all these great resources that exist for them. For me, I feel fortunate that I knew of those resources, but there's so much more that we need to do to help support newly diagnosed individuals that have no experience in the healthcare system. And so, I look forward to the work that Erica and One Cancer Place is trying to accomplish by, meeting newly diagnosed individuals at that initial diagnosis to help provide resources and guidance and uh, help them with all of their supportive wraparound services that maybe aren't initially offered by your treatment center. Something that I'm, really grateful for the opportunity to already have some of that background knowledge, but I recognize that that's a challenge. And so, it's great to be able to work and share my story so that other newly diagnosed individuals can understand, the power of these support communities and the resources that they provide so that they can have a better experience.
When you have just been diagnosed with cancer, what is something that you wish that newly diagnosed people could know right away?
That's a great question. I have so many thoughts running through my mind right now. I mean, you can ask questions. You are empowered to ask questions of your medical team. You are allowed to take pause and gather as much information as possible. And there are people and resources that are available to support you along this journey.
What you were saying sort of made me think of something because
Mhm.
there's a lot of fear for people who don't know, right?
Right.
I don't know what this means. I have no idea really what the doctor's even saying to me right now. I just hear cancer and kind of deer in headlights.
Mhm.
But you're coming from the other side where you might know exactly what they're saying, but it could still mean so many things. But having too much information also creates a level of fear. Is there a way, or does One Cancer Place help people sift through the information so that it's digestible but not inflammatory with their fears?
Absolutely. I think, you know, when you're initially diagnosed and you're going through all of like the diagnostic period of, you know, testing, scans, trying to understand the stage of your disease, there's a lot of pieces of information that need to be collected. And all of those things provide a great deal of information to your healthcare team onto how best move forward with treatment. when it's an overwhelming amount of information, right? And so I think where One Cancer Place is trying to make a difference is to your point, help people sift through that information, know what's important. You know, there's now the advent of new targeted treatment options that are specific to an individual's unique tumor and genes of their tumor and disease. And so having all of that information makes sure that you are getting the best treatment for you. One thing, if I could tell someone who's newly diagnosed, is that cancer is a very unique experience. There's not a one size fits all. Keeping that in mind when you're going on the internet and Googling things and reading things that scare you is that everyone's situation is entirely different. And so when you're able to gather as much information as possible about you and your cancer, that's so very important.
What you're saying makes a lot of sense because there's a lot of similarities to a lot of cancer journeys, but every single person has a different body and a different body chemistry. So it makes a lot of sense that, you want people to be able to find what really works for them. So that's great. Could you remind me again when you were diagnosed?
I was diagnosed in April of 2021, so about 11 months ago.
Okay. And since, finding out that you were living with cancer, what have you learned about yourself?
I have learned that I'm more resilient than I thought I was. Just that whole resilience. You can have this sort of fear, but also you can be happy that, you might be on the other side of treatment or, hearing the news that, your treatment is working well, but also still being, completely terrified of, what you're going through. Be happy that you survived cancer, but be sad that, your body is changed forever. It's a wild mix of emotions, but I think, one thing that I'm grateful for Erica for is that she was the voice that I still hear in the back of my mind telling me that I'm going to come through this experience a stronger person, and that while I might not understand it yet, that this will make me a better person. And so while I'm still trying to find out how it's going to make me a better person, I do see that this has made me a stronger person right now. And I still realize that it's not even been a year since my diagnosis, and I'm just trying to give myself some grace to feel all the feels and it changes every single day. But I do feel that at this point, I have come out of this a stronger person, and that, we can do really, really hard things.
I mean, you mentioned how Erica was so supportive and reinforcing your experience with positivity. How have the other people in your life been helpful? And what advice would you give to anyone who has a loved one that's going through what you're going through or something similar to that?
Yeah. You know, grab your people, tell them you love them, ask them for help when you need help. I think, the one thing is that not everyone has been touched by cancer. Many of us have. And I think until either you personally or someone, very close to you has gone through this, it's hard to have the right words and know what to do. And so, while giving myself grace, give everyone else grace that this is, a difficult situation to sort of navigate. But for someone diagnosed, ask for help, ask for what you need. And for those who have a loved one or know someone that has been newly diagnosed, I would recommend, taking action. Don't just say, I'm here if you need anything. do something, show up at their door with groceries, buy them dinner, go for a long walk together. And if you don't know what to say, just say hi. How are you? You don't have to have the right words in these situations, but just knowing that you are thinking of that person means so, so incredibly much. And words are difficult at this time. So don't beat yourself up about saying the right or the wrong thing. Just say something.
That's great advice. I love that. Just say something.
I had people who had heard from a family friend, they didn't want to reach out because they feared that they didn't want me to, that I didn't want them to know. But I think if you know something, it hurts more that you don't say something. If you know someone is going through something difficult, however you found out, reach out to that person and know that you're there and you're supporting them and rooting them on, because it's such a difficult time, and sometimes you just don't even know what you need. But hearing support from others, being there for someone during a difficult time means so much.
Now, I know that everyone is different, and some people are able to stay positive the whole time, and some people are like really find it hard. But in after those first few days of receiving your diagnosis, do you remember the first time where you had like a big smile, something brought a big smile to your face and you were like, "Oh wow, that was a happy moment and I'm looking forward to more of those."
Yeah, I love this question. And I actually was going through my pictures on my phone, um, and sort of looking at photos of myself immediately before and after my diagnosis, and was surprised to see that there were photos of me doing, seemingly normal things after my diagnosis and smiling in photos. Because when I look back at that time, everything feels sort of sad in my memory. But my sisters, when I was diagnosed, they hopped on a plane from Chicago, it's where we're from and where they still live, to Seattle within 24 hours of me getting that phone call, finding out that I had cancer. And they showed up, you know, I was sort of like in between going and getting scans and all of these doctor's appointments and phone calls. And I had told my sisters, like, you're here, you're in Seattle. Like, I at least want to like do vacation type things while you're here. And so we went out to lunch, we went sailing, we had friends come down or up from Portland. And, I was still so much in my head, but I was still having such a great time having my people there with me. I guess it was just interesting looking back and feeling like, when will things be happy again? When will I laugh again? And I was doing that in that moment. I think I was just so preoccupied with thoughts that I sort of forgotten about that. But I do also remember being so in my head for so many weeks. I'm sort of like a happy-go-lucky person, singing in my car, annoying my husband with my terrible singing voice. And I had thought to myself, will I ever sing again? Like, will I ever turn the radio on and just jam out and annoy my husband? And, few weeks went by and I was doing that. And so, like, I think I recognized it also within that moment, like, oh, I'm coming back. Like, the person who I was before my cancer diagnosis is still here.
Yeah, that's great. Well, finally, I want to know, how has your diagnosis and your cancer journey, how has that shaped how you do your job?
I mean, it's hard. I think, everyone anyone that I had met after my diagnosis and sort of asked me what I did for a living, their first initial thought was, oh, well, you're going to be better at your job now. And, I think they were trying to be helpful, but also I don't know if I thought that was helpful because I thought, man, I'd rather suck at my job. Um, but I do think there are times where I have to bite my tongue because we make a lot of assumptions and we think we know what the patient experience and journey is like. And until you've gone through it yourself, you can't quite possibly understand the gravity and the emotional parts of a diagnosis. It's not black and white. There's so much happening and you're thrusted into this life that you never wanted. All of these things are coming at you, and it's hard to fully understand all of that and the gravity of it. But having said all of that, I think it has lit a fire in me. I think I had always had that passion, but now I take things a little bit more personally. And I don't know if that's a good or bad thing, but I just know that I will carry this with me to make sure that we're doing everything that we can to make the cancer experience better for what that's worth. I don't know that you can make it better, but it's shown me where there are blind spots and what I can do within the control that I have within maybe my role, to help get information and resources available to people so that they know that they're not alone in this and that there's great organizations like One Cancer Place out there providing support and information and community for people so that they don't feel alone.
Amazing. That's great. Well, Nicole, thank you so much for sharing with me. Is there anything else that you want to say before we go about dealing with cancer, about One Cancer Place?
Yeah, cancer sucks. And I'm sorry for anyone who's listening to this because they've been newly diagnosed or someone that they love has been newly diagnosed. But know that there are amazing people and an amazing community of survivors and thrivers out there who will connect with you to help provide you some hope and help guide you along the way if you want that and if you let them. I've met the most amazing community from my experience, and I'm grateful for those people. And so if you want it, it's there.